Thank you all for joining again for today's webinar. My name is Ishwar Iyer. I'm Product Manager at OriginLab. And this webinar is about improvements to Python in upcoming Origin version 2021. So currently we are at version 2020B. If you go to our website, to the main page, Origin 2020B is the current version. 2021 will be released end of October. We did some recent surveys and talked to some users and found that there is quite a bit of interest in using Python within Origin. So we decided to make this to be a primary focus, one of the key features in the upcoming 2021 version. Okay. Keep in mind that what I am showing you today, you will not be able to do in the version of Origin that you have. I am using an internal build of Origin 2021. So after this webinar, we'll be bringing up a poll and asking you, are you interested in becoming a beta tester to try this feature or any other new features in the upcoming version? And please answer that poll, or you can later also email betatest@originlab.com. And then we'll send you information on how to beta test. You'll be able to download a version of 2021, and then we can share the project with you, and you will be able to work with what I'm showing you today. Again, what I'm showing you today will not work in 2020B or older versions. Just wanted to make that clear. Okay, so during the webinar, if you have questions, please type in the Q&A window. I see we are already answering some questions there. If you have any general comments, you can also put in the chat window. I tend to speak fast, so if you want me to slow down or something is not clear, please put in the chat window. I will try to monitor those two panels during the webinar. My colleagues from tech support are helping as well. Okay. All right. So before we get started with details, I just wanted to remind you about programming options in Origin. Okay, you may be already familiar. Origin has a built-in scripting language called LabTalk, and Python will hook into that. We will show examples of how to call a Python function from LabTalk in the upcoming version. Origin C is an ANSI C compatible programming language within Origin as well. It has C# features, C++ features as well. Some of you may already be familiar with programming in Origin C, and that's the platform for building tools, such as if you want to create an app. We have over 200 apps available on our website. For download, there is an app tab on the right side of the Origin interface where you can look for new apps and download and use them. Most of them are built using Origin C, and some of them have been built by users like you. Majority were built by OriginLab, but Origin C is available to you as a platform to use for building apps. And the nice thing in the upcoming version is Origin C can also call Python. I'll show you an example of that as well. Okay. Then we have embedded Python as a third programming option. And that's the focus of this webinar today. Okay. Other than these programming languages, we also have an R console. We had a webinar about that a while back. If you go to our homepage and go to support and click on webinars, you will see here upcoming webinars. So you see today's agenda. At 4 p.m. there is an accessing database webinar by my colleague James Chen. And next Friday, there is a webinar. There are two webinars on basic statistics and advanced statistics. Okay, you can click here and register. We have actually put up webinars for the rest of July. So we have quite a few webinars coming up, and you can click register. Keep in mind, you have to register for each webinar separately. On that same main webinar page, we also have all the recordings of the past webinars. And this webinar is being recorded as well. We'll put it up there. So you can go there and choose a topic that's of interest to you and review past webinars. So for example, working with R and Python, there is a download, or you can play the MP4 file, and there is also an associated OPJ file. This webinar was based on current Origin. What I'm showing you today is improvements in the upcoming Origin, okay, upcoming version. Then there is a MATLAB console and also a mathematical link. We had a MATLAB webinar as well, and that recording is available also. Okay. Now, from outside of Origin, you can talk to Origin. Origin as a server, your application as a client. And that could be LabVIEW, it can be Excel, it can be MATLAB, C#, Visual Basic. It can also be external Python. It's Python that you installed on your PC by yourself. But the focus of this webinar is again embedded Python. Okay, what comes pre-installed with Origin. So let me clarify what is embedded Python and what are we improving. Okay, embedded Python was introduced in Origin version 2017, a few years back. So when you install Origin, there is an option to also install Python. That option is turned on by default. So if you don't change anything in the installer, Python is installed for you. We call this embedded Python. The idea here is that it's separate from a Python installation that you may have outside of Origin. It's independent. It's sort of under the Origin umbrella, so to speak. It's immediately available from Origin so that you can interact and access Origin objects from Python, send data, get data, and such. So we have already had this since version 2017. But in the previous versions, including the current version, we had a package called PyOrigin. And this package we found is a little harder to use for users. It's somewhat of a low-level access to data and objects from Origin. So we decided to revamp in 2021 and improve a variety of things. So one of them is we are introducing a new package called Origin Pro. This will provide easier high-level access to workbooks and matrices and graphs and such in Origin. Okay, I'll show several examples of this. This will also support data frames. So you can take an entire worksheet and pass it to Python as a data frame. I'll show an example of that later. And also access to data exchange between, say, NumPy arrays and matrices in Origin. I'll show an example of that as well. Okay, so it's higher level access and easier way of coding. Then we are also supporting debugging Python code. The current version of Origin and previous versions do not have that. There was no way to debug Python code inside the Origin environment. So we have added that in Origin's code builder. I'll show that. We also added a GUI tool and script commands for easy management of Python packages. As you know, anything you want to do with Python, you'll have to go get an appropriate package. And installing and managing those packages in the current released version and in older versions was a hassle. So we have improved that. I'll show you how. Another key feature is we are now supporting calling Python functions from laptop script and Origin C, as I alluded before. And this is a very key feature. This will let you do auto-updatable calculations by calling Python code to do your computation. Okay, so that's a key significant improvement in the upcoming version. Also, much improved documentation, including many code samples and Origin product samples. The documentation is already online. We have put it up there because we have started our beta cycle. Some of you may already have a beta version. We have other testers who have been testing it. The purpose of this webinar is to show you what's coming and get you excited about this feature, and hopefully you will sign up to beta test and we can work together to make sure the improvements we are making are relevant to you and what sort of examples we should add and such. I will show more of the documentation to you as we go along. So there are different chapters here. One of them is an introduction chapter as to what we are doing in 2021. about the new Origin Pro package, about how to access from Python console, what changes we have made to the code builder. I'll be showing all of this anyway, and a GUI for managing packages, okay? And there are also script commands for managing packages. Then we have a page with several Python examples. You can copy and paste the code and immediately run once you get the beta version to get a feel for how the code is structured, how to talk to a worksheet, how to talk to a metrics and such. I'll show you examples of these. We also put together a large selection of Origin projects. So here we have Origin projects with attached Python files. So that's another technique to attach a code to a project. Then you can send the project to your colleague and they have the Python code as well. I'll show you examples of that as well. And finally, we have a new reference, language reference for this Origin Pro package. Okay, it's much nicely structured. Okay, and then what packages or sub-packages are available under here, like a base package, graph, metrics, worksheet. There are also package functions and the breakdown of all the classes and the methods and such, everything nicely documented. Okay, so for example, if I go to package functions and look at all the functions, I can see the functions available, like how to find a sheet, worksheet inside Origin. Okay, I'll be showing examples of these. This is a new documentation style that we are adopting, and we look forward to comments from you on that as well. Okay, so that's the premise. So let's get started with some concrete examples. Okay, so now first I'm going to show you how to do some very simple data manipulation from the Python console. Am I doing okay? Is my speed okay? If you have any comments, please let me know. Questions, please put in the Q&A panel. Use the chat panel for any general response. Okay, so here I have a column of numbers that I would like to sort. Of course, Origin can sort it, but I'm going to show you a simple example on how to call Python to sort it. So first, let me go to the connectivity menu. This is a new menu we added in some recent versions of Origin. This is where you have the MATLAB console, the R console. Now we have the Python console and also the Python IDE link, which is a new menu entry in the upcoming 2021. I'll show you that, and also the mathematical link. So let me fire up the Python console. So the console opens and you can see that we are shipping 3.8.3. So anytime we release a new version of Origin, we usually update the embedded Python version to keep up with new versions. It may not be the latest version of Python, but it may be whatever we have tested in our QA procedure before we made the final build. Okay, so right now it is 3.8.3. So let me show you how to talk to this worksheet, get this column of data, sort it, and put it in column 2. Okay, so the first thing to do is import the Origin Pro package. Okay, that lets you communicate between Python and Origin. So I'm typing import Origin Pro as OP. Okay. Okay, sorry. Typo, Origin Pro. Okay. Okay, so that's important. Now I can start communicating with Origin. So I'm going to find my worksheet. Like I told you from the documentation, there are ways to do that. So function for finding. So I'm going to use op.find sheet, and I'm not going to pass any argument to it. If I don't pass any argument, it's assumed that I'm talking about the active sheet. So I'm using that convenient default here. Of course, I can put a name of a specific book or a metrics book, etc. I'll show you examples later. So I have now access to the worksheet. If I type WKS, it shows me that it is a valid object. Now I can get the data. Okay, so now if I go back to the documentation, okay, where was my page? there are methods and properties under WKS. So I'm going to use the WKS.toList to get the data from a column into a Python list. So I'm going to say data equals WKS.to_list. Okay. And keep in mind, Python starts counting from 0. So if I want to get column 1, I type data equal to WKS.toList 0. Okay. So let's execute that. So now the data would have come in. I can check. So there is my data in Python. Now let me do a data.sort in Python. Okay. So now if I type data, you'll see it's sorted. So now I can put it back into the worksheet. And then for that, there is a method WKS.fromList. Populate the column in the worksheet from a list in Python. So WKS.from_list. Okay. Put it into column 2, which is 1 because it's 0-based counting. And what to put? The list name data. Okay. So once I execute that, the values come back into worksheet. Okay, so this is a very simple example to show you how the Origin Pro package works, how you can start communicating between Python and Origin to get data, transform the data, and put it back. Okay, any questions at this point? If I am going too fast, let me know. Okay, let's move on. Now I'm going to show you how to run code the code builder. For a few commands, the console is okay. But obviously, if you have a code with many lines and you want to debug, etc., that's when you switch to code builder. Okay. So I'm going to first show you an example of taking some noisy data and using SciPy to do a Savitsky-Golay filter. Of course, Origin has this filter too, but for a simple example, I happen to choose this particular function in SciPy. Okay, so for this, we open code builder. And before we open code builder, let me just copy the code here. I'm going to just do a Control-C. By the way, these windows are using Markdown syntax, which is a new feature in recent versions of Origin, which allows you to nicely format text and also format code. So you can just select code and copy and paste and such. Okay. So let me copy the code again here. Okay, Control-C. And I'm going to Origin to, sorry, my WebEx is, my WebEx buttons are masking the Origin toolbar here. So let me move this a little further below. The auto hide doesn't seem to be working well. So in the connectivity menu, okay, there you go, the auto hide worked now. So in the connectivity menu, there is an option for Python IDE in Code Builder. So if I choose that, Origin opens Code Builder, which is our environment for doing coding, whether it's laptop scripting, Origin C, or Python. If I open Code Builder from that particular menu item, it automatically opens an untitled.py. Okay, it opens a Python file. If you happen to come to Code Builder directly, then you will have to do a file new, and then you have many different options: C, C++, header files, HTML files, laptop file, Python file is there. So keep in mind, you'll have to switch the type before you open a file. From the menu, it's convenient. It comes to untitled.py. The nice thing here is I can just paste the code here and it's ready to go. Okay. Let me execute this in debug mode so you can see what's going on. Okay. Let me switch to Code Builder. There is this button. Once Code Builder is open, you can go back to Code Builder with that button. So as I mentioned before, we implemented debugging. So let me turn on a breakpoint on the very first line itself. Okay. Now I can debug through the lines here and show you what happens. Okay. So the first line here is, let me start the debug process. So you hit the green arrow to start debugging. So now it's waiting on the first line. And the debug toolbar, this toolbar, by the way, may be on the further right of Code Builder. I dragged it to the left and docked it closer so that we can look at what's going on in Origin at the same time. So there are options here, like any debugger, I can step into or step over. I'm just going to step over each line. So the first line is importing NumPy. By the way, I have already installed the NumPy package. I have already installed the SciPy package. I'll show you soon how to manage those. Next line is from SciPy, I'm importing the signal module. Okay, so that takes a moment. That's done. Now I want to talk to Origin. So I import Origin Pro as OP. Okay, that's done. Now, similar to what we did before, remember I have to make this window active. Okay, maybe this is not going to work now because I forgot to make that window active. So let me go to debug and let me stop debugging because I was using the active window option in the code. My notes window was active. I apologize for that. The code already ran. So let me, that's because I just did stop debugging. Let me clear again and let me go back to debugging again. Okay, apologize for that interruption. Let me go ahead and step through again. Import NumPy, import SciPy, import Origin Pro, get the data from the sheet, column 2. Okay, and we have a variables window here. I can go to view variables, local variables. Okay, you will see all the variables here from Python. So there is column 2. If I click on that, you will see all the column value entries. So you can debug and look at values as you go. Okay, now let me go to the next line. And that's going to take the data and convert it to an NP array, NumPy array, because SciPy requires a NumPy array to be passed to it. Okay, after converting, I'm calling the signal.Savitsky-Golay filter function in the signal module of SciPy. Let me step over that. Now the data is smoothed. I can take the smooth data and put it back in column 2. So there it is. Okay, so that shows you how flexible it is to just take some Python code, paste it into Code Builder, do debugging, look at your variable values, do step by step and debug your code and develop your routine. Okay. Any questions so far? Please feel free to ask questions. We like when you participate. Okay. Let me switch to another example. Okay. A data frame example. So here in this book name is called All Airports. This is data I got from a government website, which has the airport code, the display name, the latitude, longitude, etc. I'll come back to this later for a nice example of a traveling salesperson optimization problem using Python. Just now I'm focused on getting this data. So you see this data is a worksheet with many rows. I believe like 7,000 or 2,000 plus rows. I want to get this entire worksheet as a data frame into Python. I want to pick 10 random rows from that collection and put it into this book called subset. Okay. And let's see how easy that is to do in Python. Okay. So I'm going to copy the code now. Control C. I already have my Code Builder open, so I can simply go to Code Builder. It's also accessible from the View menu, View Code Builder, or Alt-4 shortcut key. I can wipe out my previous code and paste the new code. Okay, so that's the nice thing about Untitled. It's just like an open whiteboard for you to paste code and keep running. Okay, so let me quickly explain the code. Again, I'm importing Origin Pro. And this time, if you will notice, I'm finding the sheet by name. So I hope this is visible to you. Let me actually go back to the notes window. And the nice thing with the notes window, I can hold the control key and zoom in so you can actually read the code better. Okay. So you can see that I can use a range notation. You may be familiar with range notation in Origin. This range notation is saying, go look for a book named All Airports. It can be the book short name or the long name. And the first sheet, 1 exclamation. So similar to how Excel refers to sheets, we have the similar syntax. Okay, that's for WKS1. WKS2 is find the sheet name subset, first sheet in the book name subset. That's this book. Then I'm saying, get me a data frame. Take all of worksheet 1 and put it into a data frame. Clear worksheet 2. And from the data frame, take a random sample of 10. So this is a very nifty feature in Python that I can pick a random subset from a data frame and I can put it back to my worksheet. So let's go execute this. Okay. Now I'm going to go to Code Builder. And this time I'm not going to debug. The code is simple enough. You can place your cursor anywhere in Code Builder and you can simply press F5 to run. Okay. So the code ran and you will see that I got 10 rows of data here. Okay. The index is all random. It picked random data. I can go here and keep hitting F5 to show you that I can continuously pick a random set of 10 rows from that data frame. So this is a powerful feature. You can take an entire sheet, which may have numeric, string, mixed column formats, and get all of that into Python and do your data processing and put it back. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay, we are about half an hour into the webinar. It might take me another half an hour to finish. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any. I hope what we are showing is interesting to you so far, and we would like you to join our beta testing group. Now let me show a metrics example. Okay. So like I mentioned before, we have several pre-packaged examples on the website under documentation already. I'm going to open one of them. Okay. It's in this page where I previously showed you. There are many examples. This one uses OpenCV Python package to load TIFF files into a metric sheet. So first of all, OpenCV Python needs to be installed, the plugin. I have already installed that. So let me just copy the code. Okay, I'm just going to copy, Control-C, and I'm going to go to Origin Code Builder and paste it. Okay, again, I'll just use my untitled to paste my code and run it. Let me make Origin active so you can see what's going on. Okay, and let me briefly explain the code. Okay, so here I'm importing Origin Pro. I'm also importing NumPy, and I'm importing CV2, which is the OpenCV Python package. Okay, and then just for getting some images, Origin has many sample images in the Origin samples folder. You may know we ship with many different samples. Okay, so one set of samples is under image processing. We have myocyte 1, myocyte 2, myocyte 3, etc. 8 files, 8 TIFF files. So there is a way to get the origin path, op.path. OP is the Origin Pro package that I have imported. And then you can set up a string in Python. This is all Python code. I don't really need to explain to you if you are familiar with Python. So it's just pointing to the file, and it is doing a cv2.imread, which is a method in CV2 for reading an image. Okay, imread, fname, and some constant here. What that's details of CV2 package that I don't want to go into. Okay, honestly, I don't know the CV package. My colleague wrote this code. Okay, again, when all of this is said and done and you sign up for beta testing, our team is there to help you. If there is a new package you want to work with and work with your data and you have an idea in your head how to code it, we are there to help. Same goes without saying after the release as well. As you know, we have excellent tech support. Okay, then in NumPy, you can take the array and do a stack to put all the array into a stack. And the neat thing is, in Origin, I can start a new matrix and take the NumPy stack and push the entire stack into the matrix. Okay, you can just say metric sheet dot from NumPy array equal to IAMArray, where this IAMArray was built as a stack. Okay, so let me just run the code. Okay, just press F5 to run. Okay, you can see that a matrix book was created. So Python is now reading all the image files and building the NumPy array and then pushing it to Origin. Okay, and in recent versions of Origin, we implemented this nice slider feature. So if you have a stack of images, you can use the slider to view the stack. Okay, so there are 8 images here. You can see 3 of 7, 4 of 7 as I move my slider. Okay, all the data is there. In recent versions of Origin, we also have this mini toolbar. So if I click somewhere here, you'll see a mini toolbar, and mini toolbar has several options. I can, instead of a slider, I can also do viewing just the image, or I can turn off the slider and view it as individual thumbnails up here and click on the thumbnails. There are several options of bringing an image stack and interacting within an Origin. Now, what can you do with the image? We have been building some applications. We have a simple applications for object finding that you may find in the apps area. So you may want to give that a try. And we are looking for ideas from you. We are also working on a new app for image stack to take like profiles drilling down into a stack. So you can take a single pixel and drill down into the stack of say 100 images and look at the intensity values and compare it with another pixel position and such. So we are open to ideas. If you work with images, this would be a good way of using Python to manage the NumPy array wherever your data and images may be. Maybe you're doing some data acquisition, the images are coming in, maybe you have some custom microscope format and you're already reading the images into Python. You can push that into Origin for a very flexible GUI in Origin and then do your further graphing and processing in Origin. Of course, as you know, if you have an image like this, Origin already has built-in tools such as plotting and go to contour, and you can do like a contour profile, okay, to do profiling of images or matrix data. So all that is already available. This is nothing new. Your current version of Origin will have it as well. You can do profiling, okay? What I was talking about is profiling into the stack, going in the Z direction. That's something we are looking into, okay? So those were some of the quick examples of running code from Code Builder. Now let me switch to how to make a Python function and call it from Origin. Okay, let me close this profile dialog. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to call a Python function from laptop script, and then show you how to call from Origin C. Okay, is my pace okay? Let me know if I should slow down. Okay, first I'm going to show you that trivial sort example again, but this time I'm going to use a function rather than run a few lines of code. So how did we implement functions in Origin? The idea here is you can define a function in a Python file, give it a specific name, and simply call it from anywhere that script is accessible in Origin, such as set column values. Okay, so in this version, we are shipping a file. Let me open file open and go to user files folder. When you install Origin 2021, there is a file .lt.py. Let me open that. We are pre-shipping this and putting a few functions in there to just get you started so you can start using it. Okay, so how to define functions in Python? Origin has float type, integer type, string type. As you know, a column can be a bunch of strings. It can be numeric. It can even be set as integer. It can be double, right? Or your function, you may want to send a single value, a float value, and return a single float value. So we have come up with some conventions using doc strings. If you're familiar with Python, you may already know what's a doc string. So in the doc strings part of the function, you can define the return value and the input value. So for example, these are some of the functions we pre-populate so that you can get started, just to get an idea. So this function takes two strings, A and B, and concatenates them and returns C. So we define it as S:SS. That means input is 2 strings, return is 1 string. Okay, so here is another one, S colon SS in caps. That is, input is 2 string arrays and return is a string array. Okay, I'm going to switch to this function F2, which is a really simple function. All it does is it accepts an array of floats. Note here it's capital F for float array, small f for a single float number. Okay, so F2 is accept a float array, sort it, and return a float array. So I want to call this function F2. So how do I call it? Let me go in here, and as you know, we have the f of x row in origin, which is what the set column values uses. So here I can simply type pi to say I'm calling a Python function, dot name of the file. My file name is LT. Remember, Origin laptop is not case sensitive. I don't have to type capital LT. Okay, dot function name F2. Okay, so this will have Origin go to the name file name lt.py, and it's assumed it's in user files folder. We'll have a way to set directory. I'm not going into the details of that. You can set the directory to a different folder if you have a collection of Python files that you want to keep elsewhere and not under the user files folder. But for now, let's stick with LT. So it's going to look at the lt.py file and find the function F2. And I'm going to pass column A, which is an array of floats, and that's it. And if I hit enter, you'll see I got the sorted result back. And the beautiful thing here is it's a logged operation now. As you know, set column values, let me just open the set column value dialog. When you set column values in the past, you may have used that with laptop script. You may have even put before formula script in here. Once you put any expression in here, you can, by default, the recalculation is auto. So the benefit here is I can go here and change the number. If I change this to a 1, you will see it updated. If I change this to 100, you will see it updated, right? So we are expanding the auto recalculation feature to also include Python functions. So that's a very key feature in the upcoming version. Any questions on this? So this was a super trivial example. Let me show you now that smoothing example we did before, but how to make that into a function, okay? So I'm going to take the code here and I'm going to add a function, okay? Right click, sorry, Control C. Right click doesn't work in the notes window in markdown mode. I have to simply do Control C to copy. So let's go to the end here and define a new function in the same LT file. So let me copy here, okay? So these lines here, for the function I need numpy and scipy. I'm going to put them way at the top. Control X. I'm going to put them up here, okay? It cannot be inside the function body. It has to be outside, okay? So if you are developing a Python file with many functions and your functions require packages, you would put all the import statements up here. Of course, if you want to manage it as individual Python files so that you don't have to load up the packages, you are welcome to do that. You can have any number of Python files. I just happen to put it in the same file lt.py. Okay, so here's my function over here. The copy paste from Markdown didn't work that well. Let me just format it so that it reads better. Okay, I'm just going to tab it so that you can see the function definition better. Okay, we'll look into that. Why? Perhaps that's something we cannot control. Okay, so here note that I'm passing the number of points for the smoothing and the order for the polynomial. It's a Savitsky-Golay polynomial smoothing as two other parameters. So my first parameter I'm passing is the array of floats. The other two are integers. So I have FII here to indicate that my first parameter I'm passing is an array of floats. The next two are integers. And what I'm returning is this data, which is just an array of floats. Okay, so here it's the same code that you saw before, except I don't need to go get the data from the worksheet. The data is already passed to the function. It's a function. So I'm just saying, take the array that was passed, convert it to a NumPy array, and simply call the Savitsky-Golay filter function under the signal module of SciPy, pass the noisy data array, and pass the parameters endpoints in n order. And when the smooth array is returned, I just return it to origin. Okay, so that's it. I've defined the function. Of course, we don't run the function from here. We just save it. And then I go back to origin. And then here in my f of x, I can put in my function call. So the function call would be pi.lt. LT is the name of the file, .smooth. Smooth is my function name, right? And I am passing the parameters to it, pi.lt .smooth column B 1012. You can see it already executed, right? So I call the function successfully. Now the beautiful thing is I can go here and change. I can say, okay, what if I change this to 41 points? You can see that the auto update is nicely working, right? So that's the key feature here. With the new function definition, the auto update is also supported. Any questions? Now let me go to an origin C example. Okay, how to call a Python function from origin C. So this time around, I'm going to show you a Bayesian regression example that my colleague James Chen put together. Okay, so let's go get a C file and add it to Code Builder, and then I'll show you how things work. Okay, so here I have, under my user files under origin C, I already have an origin OC called python.cpp file. Okay, and I have an origin.py file. I'll show you what's in each of those. First, let me load the CPP file in Code Builder. Okay, so if you're familiar with working with origin C files, you may know what I'm doing here. So let me go File, Open. Okay, and I'm gonna navigate to the user files origin C folder. And I have to switch my type to CPP, and you see the file there, right? So let me open that. Okay, so there is the CPP file, and I want to make sure that it's already added to the worksheet or workspace. Okay, let me also open the Python file so you can look at it. So I'm going to go back to open again, and this time choose Python file and open that origin.py. So the requirement for calling Python function from OC is that the OC file and the Python file should be in the same folder. Okay. I think there is a switch to override that. I believe we are working on it, or it may be available in the beta that is coming up. I'm not going into the details of that. I'm sticking with just keep the OC file and the Python file in the same place for now. Here is a Python file. So it's accepting two vectors, Vx and Vy. Obviously, I want to do regression on X and Y, and it's simply calling Bayesian ridge method from scikit-learn linear models submodule to perform the Bayesian regression, and it gets the mean of the predictions and returns it. That's all this function does. Let's see how it is called from C, origin C. So this is origin C. I'm defining a function called Bayesian reg. So here, the next few statements are origin C specific. I'm pointing to the active layer. So let me make this book active so that it can find it. I'm defining two data sets, DSX, DSY, and the third data set for the result. So I'm attaching the zeroth column 1, which is 0 index, to DSX, attaching column 2, which is index 1, to DSY, and then attaching the third column for the result. And then I call the function this way, python.bayesian. Okay, so this is the key. The keyword is python.bayesian, and Bayesian is the name of the function that was defined in that origin.py file. So OC will look for a file called origin.py. It will look in the same folder. It will scan through, find the function, and call it. That's the idea. Okay. So let me go here. Because this is an OC file, of course, I have to first compile it. Compiled and done. So now all I need to do is call Bayesian reg, which is my function name. So I can come here, open the script window. Of course, I can put this into a set column values, etc. But I'm just showing you executing from the script window and call. So now there is your Bayesian regression. I have already happened to have added that column to a graph here. So here is your raw data with the result. So this really opens up windows for doing many things in Origin. You can tap into the power of graphing and data management in Origin. At the same time, use Origin C or LabTalk as the primary platform, and then from there call Python for your number crunching for things that Origin cannot do. So that's the whole idea. And we believe with the environment that we are building for 2021, things will become much more fluid and easier for you to work with Python than what was there before. Okay. At this point, let's do a quick poll. And after the poll, I'm going to show you some specific examples of how to work with projects that have Python files attached to them. Okay, so my colleague Jennifer is bringing up a poll. And one of the questions, please note, we are asking is, do you want to be a beta tester? So please answer that if you're interested, so we know who you are, and we can get back to you and send you the required information on how to join the beta team, where to download the beta from, etc. So I'll take a couple of moments here, stop talking so you can take the poll. Thank you. Okay, so while that's going on, you can continue answering the poll. I'm going to switch to showing some prepackaged examples where the code is attached to the project and how that works. Okay, so I'm going to close this project. Don't need that anymore. And I'm going to go to the file menu and do open. And I'm going to switch to under Origin installation, under the samples folder. Okay, we are shipping many samples under the Python folder. Okay, these are all projects with Python code attached. I'm going to show you a few of those. Again, you will get these when you get the beta, if you sign up for the beta. So let me choose export all graphs and open that. Okay, so here the project has a couple of folders, and in each folder there's one graph, and the code will simply take the graphs and export them. Okay, and let me show you the code for it first. So in all of these projects, we have this nice way of arranging it. We have a notes window with a description of what the project does and some details. We also have a show code button. These are all buttons with some Origin LabTalk script behind them. If I click it, it will open Code Builder, and it opened the file that was attached. So you may already know a project in Origin can have any file attached to it. You can attach a PDF, a Word document, whatever it is. You can attach a fitting function. So here we have attached a file called exp.py, and here is the code. And this code has been written as a function, what I talked about before. So it's taking a path, okay, and exporting all of the graphs in the project to that path, okay, using whatever options that were passed to it, whether you want PNG or whatever. I'm not going to dwell on the code here. Just wanted to show you. Again, you can view the details of the code when you get the beta version. So I'm going to run it. Before I run it, with these buttons, if you hold the Alt key and double click, you can open and see what's the code behind it. Okay. So this particular button has a few lines of LabTalk script to bring up a dialog, so that you can decide where the files would be exported and what format and such. Of course, you could do this dialog in Python if you are so inclined. We just happen to do it in LabTalk. And then once the input is given to what we call our get and dialog, it simply calls the function attached to the file. And note here that the syntax, you have to add an at, py.at.exp. So the moment Origin sees an at, it says, aha, so this is a file that's attached to the project. Let me go look in there. If the at is not there, it will go look in the UFF folder. Okay, so that's the distinct difference when you call a file that's attached to the project. So let me cancel out of here and let me just run the code, and then it's going to ask me export path. Where do I want to put the files? I'm going to go choose, say, desktop. Just throw it on desktop, and I'm going to say give me a PNG file, and I'm going to say change the width, set it as 500, and click OK. So this is all laptop. And when I click OK, it's calling the Python function to export the file. So let's go look at our desktop. So it automatically, the function also had a line to pop up the folder into which the export was done. So you can see the graph 1 and graph 3 are already here. I can double click to open to see my PNG file. There it is. And here is my next file. That's the next one. Okay. Just a quick, simple example to show you how you can attach a project to a Python file to a project, and then you can share it with your colleague, and they have everything. They have your origin stuff, your data, your Python file. Of course, you can share the Python file separately and ask them to put in a specific folder and call from that folder as well. Let me finish by showing one other nice example to show the power of combining Origin's graphing with Python's packages and the flexibility of how to combine. So this is a beta version, and honestly, I've been running into an issue where it says the has an issue. Actually, it doesn't have any issues. Somehow it brings up that message. Our development team will look into it. I'm going to fire up 2021 again and try that project. Okay. We'll get to the bottom of why that error is coming up. Okay, so let me go File, Open. Okay, and this time choose Traveling Salesman problem. You may be familiar with this. It's a classic problem in optimization. In this case, you have a salesperson who's hopping between airports and need to optimize the path so the cost is reduced. So let's see how that is done. So first of all, in examples like these, we have buttons. If a package is required, we have a button for installing the package. Let me all double click and show you. Okay, so all it's doing is it's calling a laptop command called pip-check scikit-opt. So what this does is it checks if scikit-opt package is already installed. If not, it will go find it and install it for you. Then you can run the code. So like I mentioned earlier, there are laptop script access to install packages, but also we have put in a nice GUI in Code Builder. So if I go to Code Builder and if I go to Tools, you will see there's a Python packages entry in the upcoming 2021 in the beta. If I click that, it will open the Python packages GUI. This is a GUI way of managing the Python packages. So you can see I've installed already many packages here. Scikit-opt, which I'm just going to use, scikit-learn, pandas, scipy, numpy. So to install a package, you simply click install and you type in your package names. It can be multiple package names and they will get installed. I'm not going to do that now because after installing, you typically have to restart Origin. Just wanted to show you the GUI and also wanted to show you the script access. And we have several other commands for the pip options as well, uninstall and such. All of that is documented. When you sign up for beta testing, you can then play with those. So let me show the code. Okay, so this code is for just optimizing, and it's really nifty. It's a short code just to get the data source as a there are two buttons here. One is for picking random airports and one is for optimizing. So the first one is just picking 10 random samples, okay? And the second button, let me cancel out of here. And the second button, let me show the optimized code. The optimized code is a little longer. It's an example from the scikit-op page. It's basically taking the latitude and longitude values and running an optimization algorithm to find the best route, okay? And then the result is put back. I'm not going to go into the code details here. Just wanted to show you. Now let's just run it. Okay, so where is the run button gone? Some of the run button is missing. Okay. Let me try to, oh, sorry, the run button is on the graph, duh. Okay, so I run optimize. It's going to call scikit optimize, take these airport locations, the latitude, longitude values, and optimize. So you see it beautifully optimized. I can click pick airports to click another set of airports, click optimize. You may wonder how this graph was done. So I took the latitude, longitude points, put them on a simple 2D graph. Then I used an app called Google Map Import. That's a free app. So as I told you before, there are many such apps available for Origin. There is an app gallery here. You can click add apps and browse. We have over 200 apps available. So there is a Google Map app that I grabbed, and I used that to place a Google Map image behind my latitude, longitude value. So if I go here and type Google and do a search, you will see there's a Google Map import. I have already installed it. So there are videos on how to use these apps. You may want to look at those. So this shows the very powerful combination of managing your data and graphs in Origin and then tapping into Python when needed for things that Origin cannot do, in this case, optimization of a path. Okay. So I hope this webinar gave you a fairly good idea of what we are aiming for with 2021 and the improvements in Python. We hope you will sign up for beta testing. We need more people to test, more ideas. When you look at our functions and classes, you may see something is missing. You may want to propose something. We are open to new ideas. So please sign up, and we look forward to working with you. And thank you for attending this webinar. Please note there is another webinar coming up later today on accessing database from Origin. That's also an exciting new area for us. The current version already has accessing database, and my colleague James Chen will show you more details of it at 4 p.m. Thank you for attending, and have a good rest of your day.